But parts of the country are still experiencing power cuts. It follows the energy minister's announcement last week that our fate actually depends on the West Africa gas pipeline to enable us get gas. There has been a heavy reliance on gas as the cheapest in fueling the country's power generation plants. Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Asa Benjamin Boakye, says our inability to pay WAPCO may take the country back to darkness. He joins me via Zoom for more on this. Mr. Boakye, I'm grateful for your time this morning. Last week, the Energy Minister admitted that our continuous supply of power will definitely be dependent on government's ability to pay WAPCO to supply gas. As at yesterday, a good part of the country were still in darkness. Is that an indication that we are unable to pay WAPCO for gas supply? What's the reality, Mr. Boakye?
I think, for WAPCO situation, it's not a problem as of today. WAPCO is transmitting at full capacity. So we're doing today around 100 MMscf of gas. So the problem today is not gas. We don't know if people have power challenges. It may not be coming from gas transmission at this point. But the bigger question is, how long are we going to be enduring this? And how many times would we have to explain to the people that one supplier or the other, has withheld supply, and therefore we're not able to send power to homes and businesses? And that, for me, is the bigger challenge for us to deal with. And it comes back to ensuring that power generated can be sold.
Ben Boakye is the Executive Director of ASEP. Hello, Mr. Boakye. We're having a bit of a connection problem. He'll be getting back online to tell us more about this. Mr. Boakye, are you back? Right.
I think
yes,
the power went.
I lost you briefly. The power
went off. Surprisingly, the power went off.
You're interesting. All right. So, so you were making the point.
We need to be able to address these recurrent problems to ensure that power generated can actually be sold and money recovered to pay the value chain. At all times, we need companies to do the transmission of gas, and all of them would want to shut down or demand that money is paid. So the problem is not WAPCO. The problem is not paying WAPCO. And therefore, if we know what the problem is, then we need to address those problems. What I even fear is the state of the state enterprises or institutions like GridCo and VRA, who, because they are state entities, may be suffering and not be able to come up with the real situation that helps all of us to address their challenges, because they cannot shut down unless the system collapses, as we have seen in some cases from GridCo. They will keep generating and or transmitting, but that comes at a huge burden to those institutions, and they may at some point not be able to deliver the service that they're supposed to deliver to the Ghanaian people. We need to watch that.
Is it a hopeless situation, Mr. Boakye?
I wouldn't say hopeless, but it's a crisis situation. To have a power sector that cannot pay 70% of its bills, that is really a difficult challenge. So government has to always intervene with hard currencies that could have gone into development. But simply because we cannot generate power and sell power and make money, government has to sacrifice the budget to address the under-recoveries in the energy sector. And we need to reverse that.
How did we get here, Mr. Boakye?
I think we have been explaining the problems, and they keep deepening and worsening. We need to get to that point where we map out the problems. We haven't comprehensively mapped out the problems to be able to address them. And even where plans exist, how do we implement those plans to ensure that, we're able to deliver power to the people? And those are the challenges. So it's essentially, for me, It's financial and managerial, which has escalated into technical problems.
And if we have to be tough on ourselves to deal with these problems, I mean, what should we be doing at this moment?
I think at this moment, I mean, we need to get ECG fixed as quickly as possible. We cannot turn it into business as usual, that they cannot collect revenues and it is fine. Everybody's happy with it. Regardless of how much adjustment you do to the tariff, if the structures to recover revenues are not tight enough or they are not stringent enough, we're still not going to make money. And you can see that even though we have made about 100% adjustment to the tariff, revenue requirement has actually declined, over time, which is a signal that we need to fix the management side of things and fix the financial side of things for the sector to function. We don't need ministers explaining to us what the problem is all the time when it's a system that is commercially viable and supposed to, generate returns, revenues, and pay the value chain.
So if the problem is not fixed within the next weeks, we're going to celebrate Christmas in darkness?
I'm not sure government will let that happen. I think they would do everything to keep the light on. And that, for me, is even the worry, that we're trying our best to sustain inefficiency. Because government will sacrifice schools, sacrifice roads, sacrifice water, projects, and pay under recoveries. We have the light on. And that, for me, is really dangerous. We need development. And the way we develop is to ensure that people who are consuming the power pay for the power and not the budget of the country.
But we are paying so much money, Mr. Boakye, and we are still sleeping in darkness.
Well, the reality is that we are not recovering that money. So
it's going into individual pockets?
Only a few people are paying, and that also has its own management issues. What is collected has management issues. First, we're not collecting enough, and even what is collected has management problems with it. So we need to fix those important problems for us to be able to ensure that we have a power system that don't keep us stuck in the way we are doing.
Is it only an ECG problem?
It's not only an ECG problem, but they sit at a position where they collect revenues to pay everybody. So if they suffer or they are not able to perform, it affects everybody else in the value chain. So that is how...
I suspect the lights have gone off again, but Ben Boakye is Executive Director of ASEP. He's been trying to explain to us what the problems are with our power supply and the reason if we do not tighten our belts and actually fix the problems, we may go back to darkness. I'm grateful for your time. Are you back? All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Boakye, for those explanations. Now, let's go.